BBOR Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. BlackBoxNid88 on Instagram for the bonus podcast. And welcome to BBOR, the home of true crime talk radio and your premier destination for unsolved mysteries, criminal psychology, and exploring the dark side of cyberspace. My name is Ned DeHaan, and I am your host, as well as the creator of AstroPsych 400 here on YouTube, and regular contributor to the Zodiac Killer channel. And a great way to support these shows is just by listening to some more content. But you can also go over to Amazon.com and have a look at the book Killer on a White Horse, written by me, Ned DeHaan. It is a novel, murder mystery, inspired by the Zodiac Manson connection, but it is indeed fictional. However, who doesn't love a good mystery? And there is always the TeeSpring page. Feel free to check out some of the merchandise. And remember, being weird is not a crime. Let the show begin. Alright, hello everybody. Today is Monday. Another Zodiac Monday. Welcome to the show. First question, what do you think of the new intro? And feel free to put your response in the comment section down below. All responses are welcome. And there was another reason for creating that one. In the old intro, I talked about how every Monday was Zodiac Mondays, Wednesday was the AMA, the Ask Me Anything, where I respond to your questions and comments, and Friday is an Anything Goes, where any subject is fair game. But life outside of the internet is going to be occupying some of my time in the recent days, and, wait, not recent days, future days, whatever those words mean. So I most likely will be doing the Zodiac Mondays and the Anything Goes Friday show, but there might not be a Wednesday AMA coming out regularly. And the next question I have for you is, what on earth is going on in this video, and why did this crime happen? Because on Thursday I did a very short video about the murder of Glenda Marisol Coco Romero, a woman who was shot and attacked by 3 people for absolutely no reason. She was working in a store, nothing was stolen, nothing was even attempted to have been taken. They didn't go for any money. 3 men walked in, pulled out firearms, shot her, and walked out. And I have an episode about her on this channel called Who Shot Glenda Marisol? And I will include a link to that because the authorities have absolutely no idea as to what on earth could have happened to Glenda Marisol. What was the motive for these 3 men to attack her? And one more time, the link included to that episode is called Who Shot Glenda Marisol? I invite you to listen. And the next thing is, I'm going to be doing these Zodiac Mondays as Zodiac Killer news reports from time to time for a couple reasons, because I can talk to you guys about the Zodiac Killer in some general ways, and I can also cover a lot of subjects, and I can even respond to your questions and comments here in this episode. And a real piece of Zodiac news is that the Zodiac Killer channel is now up and running again. The interview that I did with Richard Grinnell of ZodiacCyphers.com has been published and uploaded to their YouTube channel. ZodiacCyphers.com is a website. The Zodiac Killer YouTube channel features the Interview with the Expert series, which is hosted by me, Ned DeHaan. And I interviewed Richard last week, and that one is now available for listening. I invite you all to check it out. And after the interview, Richard and I were talking about all of the previous guests, and we just talked about some of the content in this interview or that interview, and one of them came up, and that was the interview that I did with Ann Penn, who is the author of Serial Slaughter Zodiac, as well as Golden State Killer Zodiac Solved, What If? The idea that the Golden State Killer and the Zodiac Killer are the same person, Joseph D'Angelo, and she also accuses D'Angelo of a lot of the pre-Zodiac crimes, going all the way back to 1962 with the murder of Ray Davis. And I had some very conflicting feelings. Just to share some things that Richard and I did not discuss, I came away from that interview feeling very disappointed. I did not like the direction of it at all. And over the weekend, I decided to listen back to the interview I did with Ann Penn, and I just had that moment when I was thinking, what was I mad about? I just didn't come back to mind. So I did say, though, that Ann Penn was very rude to me off the air and in our private emails, so maybe that affected my thinking in some way. And I absolutely disagree with all of her observations about the Zodiac Killer mystery and connecting it to the Golden State Killer case. I do not believe the Golden State Killer and the Zodiac Killer are the same person. And I do think that she made mistakes from time to time in the interview, but if you'd like to hear more about that, Tom Foyd has a video on his channel about Ann Penn and her Zodiac Killer books. However, no matter what, the reason why I feature the image for her book, Serial Slaughter, so frequently is because simply it is the coolest book cover ever, even though we are talking about some dark subjects, so you can hear the interview I did with Richard Grinnell, as well as the one with Ann Penn, and the video that I've included the link for, Who Shot Glenda Marisol, lots of true crime content here on YouTube. And another real benefit of presenting the show in this way is, no matter how well you plan, no matter if you're those types of people who do the whole pre-written scripts or outlines or taking notes or something, you cannot combat the human mind. You can't slow down the thought process or speed it up. And say, for example, last week on the Zodiac Killer News Report, I was talking to you guys about the Zodiac suspect Kenneth Lester German, and I posted some photos of his handwriting, which had been shared by his grandson, Philip Powers, who accuses him of being the Zodiac Killer. And the reasons why is because he thinks that he has very similar handwriting, and he may have discovered two photographs of Donna Lass, who disappeared on September 6th of 1970 in the Lake Tahoe area. The Zodiac Killer primarily operated in the San Francisco Bay Area, but is it possible that Donna Lass was a Zodiac Killer victim? Well, I've explored that a lot on this channel, but I also think that, Kenneth Lester German is just another suspect, so we can consider the evidence for him. But about the handwriting, one of you guys in the comments section pointed out that when he has a list of names that was allegedly written by Kenneth Lester German, the only name that was capitalized, written in all caps, was the name Donna. And I was like, all right, I'll give you that one. But the true piece of writing that stood out to me was there's this business card that has the word policy written on it. And I began to think that that's the piece of writing that Philip Powers has shared that most closely resembles the Zodiac Killer's handwriting. Now, I don't know if the Zodiac wrote that or not. I don't know if Kenneth Lester German wrote that or not. This is just some guy sharing these photos on Twitter. But one thing that I noticed after the episode was I was looking at the all caps version of Donna because Special J was the one who actually made that observation. And then I looked at the policy card, and that card appears to be very old, but the ink on it appears to be very fresh, and the ink doesn't appear to have aged at the same rate that the card has. So again, just sharing an observation, but this one is my own original. It seems that someone has written fresh ink on a very old card. Now, I don't know if that was actually written by the Zodiac, but there's also a high possibility that that wasn't even written by Kenneth Lester German, and I am absolutely not accusing Philip Powers of any wrongdoing or anything malicious or trying to deceive anybody. Instead, is it possible that he made a mistake? I think so, and that handwriting wasn't even belonging to his grandfather, because that looks like some very recently done ink on the card, and the one that most closely resembles the Zodiac handwriting, in my opinion. And moving on to one of the bigger segments here on this Zodiac Monday, I wanted to share something from my college days. I took creative writing class, and it wasn't English 101. I'm pretty sure it was English 201, but it has been a long ass time. And the best lecture that we had in creative writing at my university was about the psychology of publishing, when they talked about how back in the days of bookstores, before Jeff Bezos destroyed them, it was all about trying to get the book to be eye level on the shelf. And if a writer had a pen name, then they would want a pen name that would begin with A, because many bookstores would alphabetize their books and they would arrange them alphabetically. And if your pen name was something like Adam Appleby, then maybe you would have a higher chance of being on the top shelf, as opposed to somebody named Zane Zigley or something who's going to be in the Z's and pushed to the bottom. And also that the color red stands out most to the human eye. So having something red on the book can be something that draws people's attention. And the final one was that the monochrome, bright colors can really stand out. And there's a book out there called um, My Name is the Zodiac, written by a concerned citizen, and it always stood out to me because of just that final reason. Maybe you've even seen this one around on Amazon.com. It comes up in a lot of the Zodiac Killer searches, where there's just this blue monochrome background. And yes, it does say My Name is the Zodiac by a concerned citizen. It is written anonymously, and it says very clearly in the first part that the person wants to remain anonymous. Now, I did not buy this one because, of course, I want to just kind of see what this anonymous writer is all about. So I downloaded the free Kindle sample. Isn't that a wonderful thing that you can do that? And the free sample of this book contained mostly just this person's analysis of the Lake Herman Road murders and the Blue Rock Springs shooting. The Zodiac Killer's first confirmed crime was on December 20th of 1968, which saw the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. And I don't know if this person is just really onto something, or they've provided details that no one else has discovered, or they're simply just making it up, but there's a lot of connectivity in the book from things that I had never heard before, and a lot of people who have Zodiac Killer books out there just try to say, well, we don't know everything about David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen's actions on the night of the Lake Herman Road murders, but Concerned Citizen has tried to make some type of documentation about that, saying, firstly, that David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen went on their first date, and then their first official date, that is, and then they were supposed to go to a Christmas concert because it's December 20th, and instead of going to the concert, they went to the home of someone named Sharon Henslin, who is reported to have been Betty Lou Jensen's best friend in the book, and then they're waiting for Sharon Henslin's boyfriend to arrive because the four of them are going to ditch the concert. They aren't going to go. Instead, that they're going to go into San Francisco together. But her boyfriend was late and he was just taking so much time and he hadn't showed up yet that David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen decided to go to the concert anyway. A concerned citizen also states that Sharon Henslin's boyfriend was involved in the drug trade. Now, some of you will already know very well that David Faraday was a very clean-cut guy, model citizen, and somebody was trying to push grass at his school. That's often the way it's referred to, but marijuana, so to speak, at his school. And David had a very big problem with that, and he was going to rat out on the person. And some people think that the first Zodiac crime, the Lake Herman Road murders, had nothing to do with the Zodiac Killer at all, that they were actually murdered because of something related to the drug trade. And, I mean, was it going after David Faraday for a particular reason? But a concerned citizen has also introduced the subject of, was it related to Sharon Henslin's boyfriend and his own drug dealing activities? But also, this is the detail that I had never read before, and that is that David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen wanted to go to Blue Rock Springs Park on December 20th of 1968, that was their original plan, and of course Blue Rock Springs would be the destination for Darlene Ferrin and Mike Michaud on the 4th of July, 7 months later, when they were attacked by the Zodiac Killer. And Darlene Ferrin would go on to pass away from her injuries, and Mike Michaud would go on to survive. But with the Lake Herman Road murders, concerned citizen states that they leave Sharon Henslin's house. They do indeed go to the concert, and then they end up in the parking lot at Lake Herman Road. And at the end of the Lake Herman Road section, there are 3 questions that are asked to the reader, and that's the stuff that's a little bit difficult to tolerate because, number 1, it says that there's a drug bust that has gone on nearby, and it said, did somebody murder David Faraday because they were trying to reclaim drugs that they thought he may have had in his car, and I was thinking, I don't know. And then the second question was, did someone murder David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen because of the actions of Sharon's drug-dealing boyfriend? And I was just thinking, I don't know. And the third question was, why were they even in the parking lot at Lake Herman Road? And I also have to say, I don't know. And that's the frustrating part about that book, My Name is the Zodiac, because this is an unsolved case, and it's like, dude, you're the one writing the book. Why don't you just tell me? I mean, you're the one who has this book for sale. How about answering some of those questions? And also, I mean, I think that it's arranged in quite an odd way, but because I'm somebody who likes to run my mouth on the internet, and I have no intention to stop, I will attempt to answer these questions. Number one, did somebody go after David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen because of a drug bust that went on nearby? That one is not a bad question, but the way that this one is phrased, did the drug bust go on nearby and they come to David and Faraday's car to reclaim drugs that may have been taken? I think the answer to that is no, because most people who entertain the drug dealer theory at Lake Herman Road think that it wasn't about reclaiming any type of drugs. It was about a revenge killing, that David Faraday had ratted somebody out for interfering in the drug trade at all, and maybe those actions had led to a drug bust, and that David was murdered for just crossing paths with the wrong people. And there's even a suspect that has been identified for the Lake Herman Road murders named David Walliot, who is not a Zodiac killer suspect, but rather a drug dealer turned informant who was working with the police, but still a very real and dangerous criminal. Now, the second question, were they murdered because of the actions associated with Sharon's drug-dealing boyfriend? Again, I'm going to say no. I don't know 100%, but I'm going to say no, because that makes absolutely no sense to me. Why go after David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen to send a message to Sharon's boyfriend? I mean, one point that isn't shared well in this is, how well did the boyfriend even know David Faraday? What benefit would the drug dealer serve? Like, how does the drug dealer benefit from murdering David if he has an issue with Sharon's boyfriend? Okay, he probably knew Betty Lou, and this the concept of you want to drive fear into the heart of the drug dealer, yet you're going after two people whom aren't even super connected to him. Again, I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. And let alone that the drug dealer wasn't even there at Sharon's house, according to a concerned citizen's book. So there doesn't seem to be an established connection between the drug-dealing boyfriend, whoever he was, and the victims, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen. Again, this is an unsolved case. I'm not really sure. I'm just saying what makes sense to me. And the final one is, why were they in the parking lot at Lake Herman Road? Well, a concerned citizen has written something that multiple people in the comments section have brought to my attention, and particularly they were Tyler Grover and Classic Chevy Cat, who provided their own hypothesis about why David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were at Lake Herman Road, and saying that it was a common stopover point for teenagers. People would have frequently gone there, and David was holding his class ring when he was murdered. A concerned citizen says very clearly in the book that David wanted to go somewhere to give Betty Lou his class ring, and to, as Tyler and Classic Chevy Cat said, to ask her to be his steady girlfriend. So it's not so much a make-out point or a lover's lane point. I mean, maybe, possibly, there could be some type of activity going on, and privacy or intimacy. Wouldn't hold that against them. But based on where their car was parked, I think that it's very close to the road indeed. And that could be the simplest answer, that this isn't connected to the drug trade at all, or that it wasn't about going to meet some type of guy for a fight, like some people have said. They pulled over at a very normal place for teenagers to pull over, and he just was going to ask her to be his steady girlfriend and give her his class ring, and they got blindsided by the Zodiac killer. And those are the real three possibilities, I think, that should be explored, as opposed to these questions which seemed a little bit far out. I've never heard that exact question asked before. Was somebody trying to reclaim drugs that could be in David's car? Well, I mean, is David a police officer? Like, is he working with the narcotics department? I mean, I no, so I don't know why they would be trying to do that, but I think those are the things that should be explored. The first possibility is that David ratting out on the local drug dealer actually came back to haunt him, and he was murdered because of the drug trade. The second one is that somebody was trying to flee the scene, and they wanted to eliminate witnesses. They didn't want anyone to remember them, but they didn't want to leave any possibility that someone could tell them what was going on. So, drug trade, witnesses, and the third one is, of course, this was the Zodiac Killer, and it had absolutely nothing to do with drugs. And you can weigh in the comment section down below. And one more time, the book is called My Name is the Zodiac, by a concerned citizen, written anonymously, and it's easy to find with that bright blue cover. And the final piece that I will share from my Concerned Citizens book is, again, something that I had never heard before, and it relates to the murder of Darlene Ferrin, which occurred on July 4th of 1969. I mean, that's when she was shot. She was pronounced dead on July 5th of 1969 at 12:38 in the morning. And that was that the family of Sharon Henslin heard the police scanner, and Sharon was not at home at the time. They knew that on the night that Betty Lou Jensen had been murdered 7 months earlier, that she had wanted to go to Blue Rock Springs Park, and then they heard that a female was shot at Blue Rock Springs Park, and that Sharon's family thought that it had been Sharon who had been murdered. I had never heard that story before either, and it's really not very well documented in the book, so I don't know where the person got that info from. But to move on to the next segment here, 2 weeks ago, I did a very brief discussion on somebody named George Senda, who is a Zodiac Killer suspect, and there's a WordPress that is written about him. It's called georgesenda.wordpress.com, and it's presented as a fan site, but on one of their pages they have a whole profile for him being the Zodiac Killer and all the reasons why. That website also accuses him of a host of other crimes, such as domestic violence, and even the murder of his own father, Anton Senda, which occurred in 1972. And the story is that George Senda eventually revealed to somebody later on that he murdered his own father, Anton, who was intoxicated and sitting in a bathtub, and George pressed down on his shoulders so his father's body would have been submerged into the water, and then fled the house and ran off to Los Angeles. George was from Pittsburgh, California, and then he was just on the run for a while, but he was never charged with the murder because Anton Senda's death was ruled to have been an accident. But because the website was presented as a fan site, I decided to write to them, and I asked, hey, look, I mean, is this real? Like, do you actually think that George Senda was the Zodiac Killer, or even better, that he was a real Zodiac Killer suspect? And I heard back from the webmaster of that one. His name is Chris, and he says, yes, indeed, all of that is real, and that it's not a joke, and it's not a gag website. And because George Senda has a YouTube channel, and he posts very, very regularly, so I thought, is this just something that is like drawing up publicity for the YouTube show? But this guy, Chris, says that this is a real Zodiac theory, that some people think that George Senda was the Zodiac Killer. My biggest strikes against him is that he was 6 feet 3 inches tall. In 1969, he would have been 17 years old. And, well, some people have growth spurts, I guess, in their late teen years. I don't think that that's super common. So, again, that's a big strike against him. But the real reason why I was put off by that profile, which I talked about 2 weeks ago, was that this guy would have committed how many murders in 1968 and 69? And then, I mean, we're talking about the Lake Berryessa stabbing, tying up Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, stabbing them with a knife, murdering Paul Stein in the taxi cab and just walking away. Yet he got so spooked and bothered by pushing somebody into a bathtub, and that he just ran and fled the Bay Area for 3 years. That just didn't seem to be consistent in their theory. And I do thank Chris for writing back to me, but I still have my doubts that whole George Senda WordPress is even an actual true crime WordPress talking about all these crimes that this YouTuber has committed. But those things do exist sometimes. People say that it's a fan site, but then they just want to lure people in and then they want to tell someone the truth about their message. However, I just have my doubts that that's real. It's just part of me still thinks that that is some way, somehow, just something promoting a YouTube channel. But I would like to go on to some of your questions and comments now. And the first one is from Zachary Smith, who says that, "Hey Ned, I'm from southern Michigan and I'm a avid watcher of BBOR. After watching your channel for quite some time, I decided to send in some questions for Zodiac Monday Q&As. Firstly, do you believe the Zodiac Killer envied young couples?" I'm so on the fence about that, to be honest. Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, and Lake Berryessa were all places where couples were targeted. And you have a man and a woman present. As we said, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were 16 and 17 years old, irrespectively. David was 17. But I think that you could make a case for that either way. But if this is not somebody targeting young couples, then what is it? It could be that it's not envious of couples, but rather like what Gareth Penn said, and other people who've expanded on his work like Michael Cole. It's about angles and positioning on a map. Okay, Michael Cole's all about the heterosexual animosity, but what Gareth Penn talked about was that it's about just getting people into certain locations so this person can draw out these angles on a map, and it's about putting mathematical signatures into a serial killer crime spree. So it doesn't even matter so much that it's a man and a woman, because the Zodiac Killer murdered Paul Stein on October 11th of 1969, and there was no woman present. Now, a very basic rundown of this envious theory, I guess that Zachary has sent to me, is that, firstly, the Zodiac Killer is fueled by heterosexual animosity. He was a rejected lover. I mean, by rejected lover, meaning he didn't have anyone in his life. So he wanted to target lovers' lanes, where a man and a woman would be present. Lake Herman Road is just a parking lot, but maybe that's where teenagers frequently visit. So that's why he chose to go there, and because he expected that there would be a couple present late at night, especially on the fact that Lake Herman Road, I think, occurred on a Friday night. But then goes to Blue Rock Springs, a man and woman is present, but Mike Mageau survives, goes to Lake Berryessa, stabs Cecilia Shepard, she dies, stabs Brian Hartnell, but he survives. So then this person is thinking, there are two things I have to do. One is I have to change my pattern so I'm not going to be captured by the police. And the second one is that I want to prove that I can kill a man so people don't figure anything out, or think that I have some type of animosity toward women, when really it's animosity toward couples, or it's animosity toward the whole basic romantic love angle. And I think that that's a defendable theory, and I do think those are solid observations. But there are people on the absolute other side of the spectrum who just say that, what about all that stuff we said at the beginning, that David Faraday could have been murdered because of some connection to the drug trade? Well, that would have nothing to do with heterosexual animosity, and that would also mean that someone was taking credit for murders that they didn't commit. So, Zachary continues in the message by saying, "This is something I have always believed in, as the first three canonical crimes were specifically aimed at young couples either in lovers' lanes, such as Lake Herman Road, Blue Rock Springs, or in secluded areas like Lake Berryessa. Secondly, I know you do not believe that the Lake Berryessa attack on Brian and Cecilia was the work of a copycat, so this question is more for people who believe the contrary. If Lake Berryessa was a copycat, what was the point in the massive change in MO? If it was a copycat crime, wouldn't it make more sense to walk up to a parked car, and fire two shots at teenagers? It's something that has never made sense to me." Oh, sure, and I don't think that the Lake Berryessa stabbing was a copycat, but one person who has said that he's going to try and persuade me to the contrary is Evan from Texas, who has a couple of YouTube videos out there, and he has addressed this in the comment section on BlackBoxOnlineRadio as well, responding to some people, the whole thing about, okay, if it's a copycat killer, the first 2 crimes were committed by gunshot, yet this copycat killer is going to stab the victims with a knife? What would be the point of that? Drew Beeson, author of Sighting In on the Zodiac Killer and the host of the Zodcast, has also said that, why wear the Lake Berryessa costume? The only time the Zodiac Killer wore the hood, if it's a copycat killer, why create the costume at all? You could tie a scarf around your face, wear a ski mask, any cheap disguise. Why go through that effort of having an elaborate costume? And what I heard Drew say on the Zodcast was, it had meaning to him, suggesting a single killer. But what Evan from Texas said was that there may be some circular thinking involved. If the crimes are different, therefore it is the same person. So I completely get what he's saying. I mean, there's like no rule book on how to be a killer. Oh, I think about that all the time, though. Like, if someone wanted to imitate the Zodiac Killer, okay, sneak up on 2 teenagers at night or something and fire some gunshots and disappear. But with the Lake Berryessa stabbing, there's almost a certain reason why the Zodiac Killer wanted to commit the crime by knife, and that is that it was the daytime, and a gunshot would be heard for miles around, and he didn't want anybody to hear the gun, so he had a gun with him, most likely a .45, and also had the knife that he used to stab Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard. But with the copycat angle, I mean, it could go either way. It is an unsolved case, and there's a very high chance that I could be persuaded one way or another, but until we actually get some hard answers, anything is possible. But here's another point, though, that supports the copycat theory. The Zodiac Killer wasn't begging everyone to look at the Lake Berryessa stabbing and saying, I'm the murderer of the girl at Lake Berryessa and stabbed the guy. I am the one who did this, and here is some drops from my bloody knife mailed in with a letter taking credit for it. No. But what the Zodiac did do was write a message on Brian Hartnell's car door, listing the dates of Zodiac activity, and said, by knife. And then a phone call was made 1 hour and 10 minutes after the stabbing on September 27th of 1969. So a lot of that points toward a single killer. And what Michael Cole has talked about, as I said, Michael Cole does believe the Zodiac was fueled by heterosexual animosity. I hope I was clear about that. But he wrote by knife at the bottom of the car door, meaning that this is one killer, and he's intentionally trying to show that he is committing crimes by knife. And my own original observation was the Lake Berryessa stabbing was the first crime to take place after the Zodiac Killer had announced his name to the world, meaning that there is something called the Wheel of Death that was mailed in on October 27th of 1970 in the Halloween card that says, by rope, by knife, by gun, by fire. And I thought that, okay, everybody thinks that Lake Herman Road was the first Zodiac crime. Let's say Lake Berryessa was the first Zodiac crime to be factored into the Wheel of Death, and then that's when it's going to begin, and this person had other murders planned. But maybe after the Stein murder got so spooked as, okay, I came so close to getting caught, I'm not going to commit any more crimes, or I'm not going to do it in the Zodiac way. But I'll go to the next part of Zach's comment. Last but not least, a much heated area of the case lies within the debate of whether or not the Zodiac did speak to Falk and Zelms following the Stein shooting. Zodiac claims to have spoken to the 2 officers and intentionally misled them, while Falk, on the contrary, on one hand, Zodiac loved nothing more than to toy with law enforcement at any given moment, so he could have been lying in order to make SFPD look like total fools. He saw it as he saw it. Falk could be lying in order to save his face due to being embarrassed, or the Zodiac could have been totally full of crap. What do you think? Well, I was just discussing this with Richard Grinnell on the Zodiac Killer channel, Interviews with the Experts series, and he has a video out on his YouTube channel just called That Richard Grinnell, where he talks about how the Zodiac Killer could have easily directed them in the wrong direction, and they actually did speak to him, and the Zodiac misled them, and that accounts for all of the timing and all of the oddities involving Officer Falk. But Richard Grinnell is the co-host of the Zodiac Speaking podcast with Mike Morford, and Mike Morford has simply just said that they have some type of dispute about that, even though they don't say it on the air. But Mike Morford has simply said that Officer Falk's credibility should be called into question. His testimony should just be viewed as that, not very credible, because he didn't come forward with this info immediately. It wasn't until about a month after the shooting that he inserted himself into all of this. But I definitely think that a lot of this is crap, though, on the part of the Zodiac. That's the final question in Zachary's comment. Very, very excellent comments here. And it says, or Zodiac could have been totally full of crap. What do you think? I know you're asking about the Stein shooting, but yes, the Zodiac killer was full of crap many times. I think the Zodiac took credit for activities that he didn't commit if he indeed wrote those letters, like the Lake Tahoe postcard, for example, which I don't know who wrote that, but I certainly don't think the Zodiac killer took credit for the murder of Donna Lass, or the Zodiac actually murdered Donna Lass, I should say. But let's look at some of the other claims of the Zodiac. Does the Zodiac actually say, I murdered Sherry Jo Bates on October 30th of 1966? No. What the Zodiac killer says is, you stumble upon my Riverside activity, but you're only finding the easy ones. There are a hell of a lot more down there. Does that say the name, Sherry Jo Bates? Bear in mind that people think that, okay, this guy would have murdered Sherry Jo Bates, written the Riverside Confession. Miss Bates was stupid. She went to the slaughter like a lab. Writing out her name, and then written the 3 additional letters, Bates had to die, there will be more. Okay, this person clearly knew who she was. Yet, just saying my Riverside activity, no direct connection to Sherry Jo Bates and the Zodiac letters. And I have said this 100 times, and I've seen people share my words in other episodes in the comments section about another one of my original observations. If Sherry Jo Bates were actually the first murder committed by the Zodiac killer, why isn't the date of her death included on the car door at Lake Berryessa? It says 12/20/68, 7/4/69, September 27th, 1969, by knife. So, I obviously do not think the Zodiac killer murdered Sherry Jo Bates, but there are so many questions in the Zodiac mystery. And it is not just simply who committed these 5 murders back in the 1960s. How about who wrote the letters? And I hear a different theory for everybody every single time. And if you do listen to my interview with Richard Grinnell, you'll hear some very, very bold claims, because the one that happened before that was the interview with Soren Korsgaard, author of America's Jack the Ripper, and he has his own take on the subject, that absolutely the Zodiac killer wrote the Riverside Confession. He does not believe that the Zodiac murdered Sherry Jo Bates in 1966, but that the Zodiac wrote the Riverside Confession because there's a Zodiac letter that uses the phrase twitch and squirm, and then the Bates Confession says twitch and squirm. And they both have a misspelling, so linguistic similarities. Richard Grinnell, though, has looked at it in a different way and said that he believes that one person wrote the Bates letters, the desktop poem, and the Riverside Confession. Because all of them talk about a single infinitive, and that is to die. They all include that. The desktop poem was found in December of 1966, and it says, sick of living, unwilling to die. And then the 3 letters said, Bates had to die, there will be more, signed with a Z. Richard does not believe that the person who confessed to that in 2016 was telling the truth. Soren Korsgaard does, though. And when I was discussing this with Soren Korsgaard, he said that the authorities made a statement that they received a confession in 2016 from somebody who said that he wrote the Bates had to die letters, and that they looked into his case, they investigated it, and they believe that yes, he did write the Bates had to die letters, but he did not murder Sherry Jo Bates, and he was not the Zodiac killer. So I don't know who this person is. I don't think his name has been revealed to the general public. But what Soren just said was, okay, the authorities said that. I don't doubt them. And what Richard said, though, is that, no, he stands by his theory that one person was responsible for all of those writings. The Riverside Confession, the desktop poem, and the 3 letters. One of them actually says she had to die. There will be more, because that was the one that was sent to her father. Because of, again, a linguistic similarity. Well, which one do you agree with? And you can weigh in the comments section down below if you think that there are linguistic similarities in the Zodiac writings as opposed to the writing that came from the killer of Sherry Jo Bates. I would love to read your comments down below. Anybody can write the show at BlackBoxOnlineRadio@AOL.com, and I really do appreciate all of the questions and comments that you guys have been sending in that might be used in some future episodes. And you can also get me on Facebook. My personal Facebook is in the description box, as well as Black Box Online Radio has a Facebook page, and of course, BlackBoxNed88 on Instagram. And I will see you over there for the bonus podcast. Until next time.